I swear, one of the main missions around here is to not get run over by a car. So I purchased this Lumix GF1 55-pound camera for one reason and one reason only: curiosity. Now, I've only had this camera for 2 days, so I don't have that many examples to show you guys, and there's still things to learn about it. But let me take you to yesterday, where I had a horrible, well, mostly horrible, because I was in an area called Piccadilly, which I'm never going to ever again. I know there's a competition here somewhere, I know it. Okay, let's try this. I'm just gonna wait for people to walk past it. Actually, no, yeah, there we go. Some of these are okay, I guess, I don't know. Really, definitely not my best work, but I'm having fun with the camera, and at least that is important. It's completely impossible to see inside there. So just to explain why I decided to purchase this camera, I am on a little bit of a mission, and I want to eventually buy an ultimate, I don't want to say pocketable, because I made a video a couple weeks back about my phone, which is the pocketable camera. And I was sort of saying in that video that there's no need for me to go ahead and, get anything else. But what drew me to this camera is the price tag, for obvious reason. This is 55 pounds. I don't really know what that is in dollars, but let's say 60 bucks. And I didn't really consider that when I was speaking about, not needing like a Ricoh or some of those more expensive, really fun, everyday cameras, because I got a phone that can basically take similar images. But things have changed since that video, and I'm realizing that phone photography is not that much fun. And when I mean fun, I'm not talking about the results of the images, I'm talking about the experience of being out and using the camera. So pretty much ever since I made that iPhone video a couple weeks back, I've basically been exclusively shooting with the camera that I'm shooting on now, which is my Panasonic GH7. It's my workhorse. It's a phenomenal video camera, phenomenal photo camera. It's a badass, and I love it, and I really do enjoy shooting with my GH7, but it is on the bigger side. It is, my pro camera, and it's not always what I want to be taking with me. So I'm looking for something that is going to be that without just jumping to the Fuji X100 VI, which I am highly tempted by, do not get me wrong, but it comes at a price tag. So I essentially bought this as a starter package, a very, very cheap starter package with great results.
Oh, yeah.
All we need to do is
I really enjoy the form factor. It's not a pocketable camera, but it's incredibly light. It's light as a feather. I think without the lens, you can't even tell the difference. Jesus. Without the lens, I'd say this is almost lighter than my phone. Another thing that drew me to this camera is that it is a micro four thirds camera, so all my lenses will currently work. And the only lens that I'm using with this camera is this, which is my kit lens that I never use anywhere else. So it's, a great little companion. It's a little pancake lens. It's perfect. 20 millimeters micro four thirds is 40 millimeters for full frame. So this is the setup. I'll never interchange lenses or anything like that. if I'm on a shoot where I think I'm gonna need more lenses, that's where I'm gonna be bringing the GH7. So just to briefly talk about specs, this is a 12.8 megapixel camera, ever so slightly more than my 12 megapixel iPhone Pro, which is the 12 Pro. But to be honest, 12 megapixels can get you pretty far. One of the main things that I've noticed megapixels being an issue in is things like removing things. You know, if you are playing around with the AI removal tools or really going into detail on post-production work, then the megapixel count can be a bit of an issue. And obviously printing large prints. But I've been able to print A4 prints with 12 megapixel cameras, and they've turned out fantastic. So I actually quite like the fact that this camera is a little bit lower on the megapixels because of the fact that it's not my main camera. This is not what I would use on any sort of professional use. This is just supposed to be fun. It is my fun camera to go and take photos when I don't want to lug around anything else. If I'm on holiday and I just want to take a little stroll with a cup of coffee and I just want to take a camera with me, this is the world where this kind of camera would live in. It is a little bit weird to hold. It doesn't have a flip LCD screen, and there's no, what the hell is that thing called? Viewfinder. That's what it's called, viewfinder. There's no viewfinder on this camera. So you are very reliant on this very old display screen. This camera will remind you of its age. This camera was released in 2009, all right? It's an old camera, hence the price tag. And there are some ways that you can see its age, but they aren't in the image quality. And that's, to be honest, very impressive. The fact that this camera does still stand with cameras that are released in today's world, and you can't tell the difference between a photo taken with this and others, especially if you're viewing it on a Instagram or anything around those lines, that's very, very impressive. Another issue I was having with it was the fact that I cannot for the life of me figure out how to control both the aperture and the shutter when I'm in M mode, so manual mode. I've tried every single button, I've tried every single dial. It only comes with this dial over here. That's the only like wheel dial that it has. All the rest is kind of like button controls, including the ISO over here. I don't know, I can't figure it out. So what I opted to do was I shoot in aperture mode, or which is aperture priority mode, or shutter priority. And then it allows me to then use this dial. So if I'm in shutter priority, this dial will control the shutter. And if I switch to aperture priority, this dial will then control the aperture. Most of my time I will shoot in aperture mode, but there might be certain circumstances where I need a specific shutter speed where I will switch to shutter mode. So that was sort of my work around that. To be honest, I quite liked it because of the fact that this is more meant to be fun. The fact that I didn't actually need to mess around with manual settings and kind of control too much actually was quite nice. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that's the way this camera is intended to be used. Don't really know. Video mode is, I don't know. I'm not using this for video. This is purely to take photos with. I've got a GH7. There's no reason to look into this for video mode. It does have a video button here. I don't even want to know what the resolution of this thing is.
Well, we'd have lost the game. Exactly. So, I mean, you need to have like...
Honestly, by the time I got to the underground, I was already completely beaten up. I was kind of ready to give up on the day, but I did manage to take this photo in the underground, which was probably my favorite photo thus far, and that gave me a little bit of hope. So I decided to grab some lunch and go to another area, which is still city. This is pretty interesting. There might be a vibe here. The leaves flying. Oh, now I'm already regretting that. Oh God, oh no. Oh no. Why did I do that? Another really fun thing, even though I won't use it, never will, probably won't ever, but it's got a little flash. That's cool. It's fun. And I think that's the easiest description for this camera. It's fun. And I know everyone talks about how all cameras made in the past 5 years are amazing. I'm gonna push it to 20. You know, I mean, this thing is 16 years old and it's still taking photos that are awesome. And granted, the ones that you're seeing on screen are probably not that good, but I'm seeing the potential. You know, if I'm in good lighting conditions and a much better mood, I can still take photos that I'm very happy with. And there were one or two that were pretty good. Is this a camera that I would use for any professional use? Of course not. So the fact that this was only 55 pounds, and just to put that in perspective, I paid for parking tickets that were more than that. And the list can really go on things that I've spent more money on than that have brought me zero joy, zero value, versus this that is bringing me a ton of joy and a ton of value. And so the difference between this and my iPhone basically had to come down to enjoyment. And I enjoy this significantly more than my phone. I mean, come on guys, listen to this shutter. That's fun. Now, results-wise, you can get the identical results. I mean, this megapixel count is exactly the same as my iPhone 12 Pro. And yes, if you have a newer phone, you have more megapixels. And yes, I guess that probably puts a case towards phone. This is not a video where I'm trying to sell you this camera, by the way, or tell you guys to buy this camera. This is a video to just basically say that the new stuff is not always necessarily going to get you that far. You know, as a matter of fact, upgrades are becoming more and more slim these days. When I look at the differences between cameras and new releases, it really does take something really special for me to be really, really interested in it. Now, granted, GoPro, out of all companies, have done that with their Mission 1 lineup. I'm actually very curious about what that's all about, but you know, we'll see. But the point is, with new technology in like Lightroom and things like that, where you can denoise things, where you can edit things, where you have more control over your image than you did back in the day, older, incredibly cheap cameras can all of a sudden become incredibly interesting. And they can be fun, and they can be a really good way of essentially challenging yourself because of the fact that you're on the lower megapixel count. It means that I don't have the same freedom that I have on my 25 megapixel count, which is still not particularly high, but it's significantly higher when it comes to being able to remove things and things like that, and you know, fix your image basically. This doesn't give you the option to fix. It gives you the option to edit, and you know, I throw all my presets on them and they look fantastic, and it gives you all those options. But when it comes to removing and zooming in and changing your composition in post, that's where the 12 megapixels will fail you. But for a camera that's supposed to be fun, that's a great time to challenge yourself and be a little bit more patient and wait for the moment and take your time a little bit more with it, a little bit like film, but I'm more of a digital shooter. So this has been a real joy, honestly, even though I'm not particularly proud with any of the photos, but that's not the camera's fault. That's entirely my fault. The quirkiness and where it faults and where the annoyances are somehow add to the joy. It's very weird. It's very weird. It's a weird little camera, but I really like it.